Okay, at my house we always use antes, but when I walked into a casino, they told me they were using blinds. What are those? Okay, now we're ready to play the game. We all buy our specified amount of chips, and one of the questions people ask often is, what is the minimum amount that I can buy in? There's a nice, neat little formula that goes through casinos the world over, as far as I know. And that is, in a limit game, your minimum buy-in is always going to be 10 times the smallest figure of the limit that you're playing. So 2 and 4, the minimum buy-in is $20, and 3 and 6, $30, and so on up the ladder. Now, does that mean that's plenty of money? No, that's a minimum buy-in for a reason. It's a minimum buy-in investment. But you can get into a game of any size with a limit buy-in that is made at the minimum level. Okay, next question. What would happen now if we were to play and we didn't have to start out putting any money into the game? It would be pretty dull. It would be the same as walking up to the blackjack dealer and saying, "Can I see my cards first before I make my bet?" They're probably not going to let you do that. So you have to start the game somehow by making people invest money into the game. Now, what do you do most of the time in your kitchen? And this is where folks that come from a kitchen to a casino are confused the first time, is there isn't what we call an ante. An ante is, if we were going to play now, okay, it's a one-chip ante. Here's how that would end up playing out in very short order. Everybody ante up a chip, we all push them in, we play the hand, life is beautiful, everyone's having a great time, now it's his turn to deal. Everybody ante up again, and here's what happens. Roger, ante, I did, that's mine right there. No, that's mine, no, that's mine. No, I remember, I put it in. We don't want to do that because, once again, guess who's getting hungry? We're wasting time, and no one wants to do that. But yet we do have to start playing for something. Another thing that happens when you ante is, if you just ante and that's your investment for the hand, what so often happens is you go around the table and everyone's checking and they're taking their time and looking for a really good hand, and there's no betting going on, and it's check, 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 which, by the way, check means that you have not made a bet, but you still have your hand. What happens is we're playing for nothing for too long. So what happens instead in a casino is they use what they call blinds. And this is the first thing that confuses people when they walk into a casino, and there isn't an ante, there's what you call blinds. Now, blinds are very simple to understand if you look at them as precisely what they are. They're blind bets. And once you look at them as a blind bet, you'll understand exactly how the game functions and why it moves at the pace it does. When you're playing limit poker, we already know there are 2 betting rounds at one level and 2 at the other. The smallest level is what starts. And so the blinds will always go to the size of what the limit is, meaning this. We're going to be playing 2 and 4 limit Texas Hold'em. That means that the very first person whose turn it is to act, which would be, if this gentleman was dealing, it would be his turn to act first. He would be forced to say, for all intents and purposes, before the cards are dealt, in the blind, I bet 1 chip. The person whose turn it is to act next, who is this gentleman here, would be forced to call and raise 1 chip. Now, when the cards are dealt out, whose turn is it to act? His turn. And what does he not have the option to do? Check, which means I want to keep my cards, but I don't want to put any money in the pot, which you can do on the other rounds when nobody has bet. But when it is your turn to make a play, you have one of 3 choices on this first round. You can either throw your cards away and fold, or you can call or match the bet that's been made to you, or you can raise the bet. But you can't say, I want to keep my cards and see some more, because the blinds are already in play.
He has to raise by 2?
In increments of 2, yes.
Even though the first one was 1, right?
Correct.
So the big blinds would, the big blinds would I would have to match.
Absolutely. And it's a good thing that you've brought up. This is what we call the small blind. This is what we call the big blind. In any limit game, the big blind will always be the size of the small part of the limit you're playing. It will start right at where we need to be, which is 2, and the small blind will almost always be half of what the big blind is. Now here's the exception. When you're playing an odd number limit, such as 3 and 6, that would mean that you would theoretically have $3 for the big blind and $1.50 for the small blind, but who wants 50-cent chips on the table? Nobody. So what the house will invariably do is round up, meaning 2 and 3. 2 and 3 for the small blind. The small blind is 2, the big blind is 3. If these were $5 chips and we were playing 15 and 30, this would be $15, and instead of $7.50, 10 and 15. And that's the only time it changes, but for any even number, it's always the same. 2 and 4, half of the big blind. The big blind is what we are betting. Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Oh, no, we're not.
I'm glad to hear that. Go ahead.
Okay, so at the beginning of a hand, the dealer, the person to the right of the dealer,
Left.
excuse me.
Clockwise to the left.
To the dealer, has to bet blind. A
What
small
they're
blind.
doing is they are making you start the game. They're making you not only play for something, which is what the antes would do in your kitchen. We're now playing, there's money in the pot right now. There's money being wagered for. That's one thing that's been accomplished. And the second thing that's been accomplished is the game is now in motion. The second the cards are dealt, it's up to him. And he either has to bet or get. He either has to put money into the pot and join the party, or throw his hand away and wait for the next hand. And you'll also see at the end of this hand, what's going to happen. The button or the dealer is going to move here. It's his turn for the small blind, his turn for the big blind, and so on we go, so that everyone will eventually end up paying the same amount of money to be in the game. In essence, you take turns anteing for everybody by handling it this way, and we start the game at the same time. Any other questions?
So it's not the person to the left that actually gets dealt the first card.
Yes, it is. Right here, we put the small and the big blind out.
Right. I thought it was this gentleman who got the first card.
We're going to deal them off here. I have a great idea.
Oh,
Let's just play a hand and
Okay.
watch how it works, okay?
okay.
Thank you for watching. I'm Roger Rod, and I'm your poker expert for Professorit.com.